I love that. Okay. So the other way that President Trump is trying to raise the pressure on Iran is, to me, the most concerning. And that is with this big, ugly submarine floating into the Mediterranean past the port. It stopped briefly at the port of Gibraltar. This is a U.S. submarine, Alaska. Now, here's the thing about the Alaska. The location of these kinds of nuclear submarines, this is a not only nuclear powered, but it carries a nuclear payload. It has nuclear bombs on it. That's really all it has on it. These things, normally their location is classified. If you were to reveal where this thing was located because you saw it when you were out water skiing or something, I mean, that's technically breaking the law. It's against the law to reveal the location of these things. However, they very publicly drove that thing into Gibraltar yesterday. And the thing about these nuclear subs is what you're looking at right there is world-ending firepower. They've got enough nuclear missiles on that boat to essentially destroy the entire planet. And like I said, they really don't have anything else. So if they're bringing this ship in because they want to go back to firing Tomahawk missiles at Iran, well, this thing's not going to be able to help because it doesn't have any Tomahawk missiles on it. It's got some defensive missile kind of things like Iron Dome type stuff that it can shoot. And but the warheads that are on the submarine, or I'm sorry, the missiles that are on the submarine cannot carry a conventional warhead. So it's not like they can just unscrew the nuclear one and screw a high explosive one on it and then fire it. There's a bit, even if they could, they actually talked about, retrofitting these things to be able to do that years ago, and then decided against it because the missile looks the same if it's got a nuclear tip or a not nuclear tip. The United States, that's a U.S. ship, T. Brooker. That's a U.S. submarine called the USS Alaska. And so if they put a high explosive warhead on that thing and then fired it from the submarine, it's going to look exactly the same to all of the radar stations around, especially in Russia and China and places like that, that we just fired a nuclear missile. And it could inadvertently result in Russia or China or somebody firing off their nuclear missiles at us because they don't want to wait until it lands to find out whether or not it's nuclear. This is really important. I mean, it's a big deal. So the fact that we put a nuclear armed submarine in the Mediterranean within striking distance of Iran is a subtle flex. And I guess you could say a threat that if you do something stupid, we have the ability to rain down nuclear Armageddon on Iran if we have to. Now, that's not going to happen. I mean, President Trump's not going to incinerate 90 million Iranians. Okay, he's not going to do that. But that's a threat. And what it tells you is that the United States is somewhat concerned about what some of the leaders in Iran have been saying about if we go back to fighting, Iran has weapons we haven't used yet that will be very big surprises to the United States. And what they're subtly threatening is chemical warfare, chemical warheads. We know for a fact that Iran has a chemical warfare, program. They actually signed the anti-proliferation treaty against chemical warfare, but they have been shown to be in violation of that treaty, which is not a surprise. They don't keep their word for anything. The kinds of chemical weapons that they could bring to bear could be anything from, mustard gas to cyanide or whatever. I've actually been in Iraq and found a mortar shell that was fired by the Islamic State that had mustard agent in it. You could smell it from, get anywhere close to it. It's like, whoa. And I went through nuclear, biological, and chemical warfare school, what they call CBRNE, now here in the U.S. military, and learned about all that stuff. And it's scary, the effects that could have on.
And they've even put like a digital.
Yeah, you can open it up.
Oh my god.
Jump in. What are your thoughts?
It's beautiful. It's so beautiful.
Jump in, mate. Have a look.
Oh my goodness. That's so...
More than they have been hit already. And they know that. So they're kind of threatening over here. And the United States says, oh, yeah. And in lumbers our giant secret military, nuclear submarine with enough missiles to turn Iran into a giant glass parking lot. And so that's one way you could flex, again, there's almost no chance that President Trump would ever order a nuclear strike on anybody unless they had struck at us first. But somebody says, tactical nukes. Tactical nukes are almost worse than worthless, in my opinion, because tactical nukes are much smaller. So they would deny an area of several, like a portion of Tehran, let's say, as a neighborhood in Tehran. A tactical nuke could do something like that, put radiation there. But the problem with using a tactical nuke is that it's a nuke. And so there's this thing called the nuclear taboo that the whole world sort of abides by since World War II, where, after those two nuclear weapons were used in combat in Japan, the whole world went, oh, we really don't want to use nuclear weapons anymore. That's just too bad. And now they're so much more powerful than those ones were that it would be orders of magnitude worse. So the nuclear taboo says if somebody breaks the taboo and actually uses a nuke for whatever reason anywhere, then everybody will feel emboldened, facilitated to use their nukes. And so Pakistan and India will drop nukes on each other, and Russia will drop nukes on Ukraine, and then NATO will drop nukes on Russia, and then it's a world-ending kind of thing to break that nuclear taboo. So I always say this. Some people don't believe me, but I believe nuclear weapons only exist as a deterrent factor. The fact that we have them is the weapon. Nobody's going to use them. If anybody's stupid enough to, Iran would use one because they have an apocalyptic vision of the future. And that's why we can't let them have it. But everybody else understands. You use a nuclear weapon, nuclear weapons are going to be used against you, even if they're little ones. Okay. So that's not going to happen. Now, back to the chemical weapons for a minute. The major, I talked about sarin gas and cyanide and things like that, mustard agent. Those things are old and not really obsolete, but they're just old technology. What Iran has been trying to develop over the past 10, 15 years is a form of fentanyl. Okay, fentanyl, the same thing that China pumps into the United States that kills tens of thousands of Americans every year. The same kind of thing that they'll give you at the hospital if you're going in for surgery, but in an appropriate dose so it doesn't kill you. That kind of fentanyl, but they've aerosolized it, and they can blow it into the air or put it in a artillery shell or something like that. And if you're in the blast radius of that thing and you get a whiff of that fentanyl, the fentanyl is so deadly that just a whiff of it and you're done. Game over. So that is more concerning to me than sarin or mustard agent or, cyanide or something like that. That is extremely concerning. Now, a lot of people ask, well, does that mean that they could use these chemical weapons if they decided to do so against the United States homeland? Not really. I'm doing a special report right now on all of the known IRGC family members who were given their green cards by Barack Obama. I mean, hundreds of them in the United States have been living there since 2012 or something, for 15 years, and they are hardcore Islamist IRGC family members. I'm going to be doing a whole video on that, but suffice it to say that if somebody like that were to distribute fentanyl aerosolized, in a mall or something in the United States, it would be catastrophic in terms of the death toll, and maybe a little hard to control. Even might kill. I mean, it's going to remain deadly for some time. Cleanup would be a mess. The thing about chemical weapons is that they're most likely to be used against U.S. military personnel in the region.
Primo air-dried salami sticks, the tasty protein.
I mean, hundreds of them in the United States have been living there since 2012 or something, for 15 years, and they are hardcore Islamist IRGC family members. I'm going to be doing a whole video on that, but suffice it to say that if somebody like that were to distribute fentanyl aerosolized, in a mall or something in the United States, it would be catastrophic in terms of the death toll, and maybe a little hard to control. Even might kill. I mean, it's going to remain deadly for some time. Cleanup would be a mess. The thing about chemical weapons is that they're most likely to be used against U.S. military personnel in the region, not against the United States. And if they're used against military personnel in the region, that would be really bad, of course, but we train for that. And we have personal protective equipment that we can put on, gas masks and mop suits and things like that, that can protect us and shield us from that. We train on it. We, like I said, send people like me to CBRNE school to learn how to decontaminate an area and to, do all that. So, it's not going to be as bad, obviously, if they use it against U.S. troops somewhere, but even that's going to be difficult because U.S. troops are not on the ground in Iran. Now, Iran is preparing for a ground assault. They believe that the United States is going to make a ground assault on Iran sometime in the near future. And they're trying very hard to dissuade the United States from doing that by putting out these, threatening posts and stuff like that. Aragachi, we got to take that other one down. Let's remove that one. Okay, go ahead. Said U.S. President Trump has no justification to deprive Iran of its nuclear rights. That does not sound like somebody who's a reasonable negotiation partner to me. Does it seem that way to you? Doesn't seem that to me. So with that in mind, Galibaf, the Speaker of the Parliament, said this: there's no alternative but to accept the rights of the Iranian people as laid out in the 14-point proposal. That's the one that is saying that Iran is going to control the Strait of Hormuz from now on and charge tolls to go through it, among other things. Any other approach will be completely inconclusive, nothing but one failure after another. And then you can see him actually making a play to the American taxpayer. The longer they drag their feet, the more American taxpayers will pay for it. So he's saying, the United States is going to have to, the United States is going to have to just surrender